We shall be known by the company we keep. Hi there, my name is Tercy Engelhardt, and I want to welcome you to the Unreasonably Grateful podcast, Living in Grace by Choice. First of all, thank you for being here. I'm grateful to have you. Each week I say some version of whatever brought you here, trust that. And it's my hope, especially today, although it is always, but especially today, that you hear something in my sharing of my story that moves you further along on your path. And I believe that we're all healing. I think healing is learning to be able to love more, let more love in, let more love flow through you, thus letting more love out. I believe that's why we're here. And I'm grateful that you're in that process with me. And we've done some hard work over these last few weeks. And I want to share with you what I'm experiencing in the hopes that in what I share, you'll hear something that will impact your journey and take you a little further along your own process of healing and discovering more of who you are. So, just a quick reminder, we've been looking at how we change. How do we change? And we went through a series of 3 episodes over the course of 3 weeks. And if you did that work, I'm going to guess that you landed somewhere in the same area that I did. And that's why I want to share what I'm experiencing right now as a reflection and a possibility for you to discover something about yourself. So here's what I saw this week. So I started to have this experience of I could see and I started to think, wow, it's all just a pretense. Like I've noticed, I start thinking about what I'm going to say before I say it. I hesitate to even call for something that's not confronting at all. It's actually part of my business or what I'm doing, but having a phone call with someone. I would watch myself respond or react in a particular way that wasn't necessarily in alignment with how I was feeling or what I was experiencing. It seemed more like it was simply a habitual conversation or filling in gaps. And so what it did, as I noticed these things, as I noticed, it took me back to what I discovered about what was underneath that was in the way of me creating something new in my life. And I believe I shared it with you, but what I discovered was from the time, really probably as a child, I didn't feel like I was safe. And so how I compensated for that was getting really good at reading a room or observing people's responses or reactions or noticing when and where it was okay to speak or not to speak, or not saying how I was feeling, or not sharing my thoughts or ideas because I had the experience they wouldn't be heard or valued, or it wasn't safe to do so. And I started to notice that and how I had habitually developed some parts of my personality, my practiced way of being, my way of responding to my perception of a world that had become the identity of who I was. And yet through prayer and meditation and guidance and listening and studying, reading a lot more scripture, really diving into the Lenten practice this year leading up to Easter, I started to see, like, is there something beyond that? And one day I had a conversation with my husband about, do you do this? Do you have this? And he goes, oh, yeah, for sure. But I'm getting a little space from it. And for him, he meditates, and his experiences, meditation gives him a little space. So he's not always a reaction to the circumstances based on the stories that running the show behind the scenes, the underlying theme of his life, or in my case, the underlying theme of my life being, it's not safe, I'm not safe. And so what I noticed, and it actually happened on the way into Mass one afternoon, and I was helping an elderly woman into the church, and we were talking, and I found myself crying. I was weeping. And what I noticed is when I get some space from that practiced personality, who I've identified as me, when I get some space from it, I'm deeply moved. I'm deeply moved by people, by nature, by life, by music, by poetry, by everything, by everyone and everything. I'm in this state of sweetness and peace and beauty and kindness and courage. And I see things that I would never see, or I wouldn't see them in the way that I was seeing them without my practiced way of being, interpreting them through my filter of, it's not safe, I'm not safe. And I've loved it. And I've been working at staying there longer. So, how do I do that? So, one, I slow down. And two, I catch myself sooner when I even start to say things that are just habitual, a way of responding to a situation, as opposed to checking in about, what am I really seeing? How am I really feeling? What is my experience beyond a response to a stimulus that then I respond in a way of defending or protecting myself, or doing something in a way to kind of create a safety net for me? And it's been moving and inspiring and beautiful. And so I'm in that process. So there isn't a conclusion. But what I notice through doing this work these past few weeks, leading into this week, that I'm tapping into more of my soul, who I'm created to be, as opposed to the personality I created or that developed out of a response to the situations and circumstances of my life. So I encourage you to keep doing that work, and hopefully in my sharing, you'll begin to dig and see. And if you haven't identified what's the underlying theme, what's the core message that you're responding to that has you living and creating your life the way you are living and creating it? What is informing the things you say or don't say, or do or don't do? And then see if you can't begin to separate your response or your reaction in a new way that gives you more room and gives you more freedom and has you actually discover more of who you really are. Okay? So have a beautiful week. Thank you for doing this work with me. Thank you for being my partner. I'd love to hear from you. You can always use a comment. And if you're on Substack, you can do the chat and I will get back to you. And you can always email me at tercy@tercyenglehart.com. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. And I'll be here next week. And I'll look forward to seeing you then. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love.